What's up guys? In today's video, we're going to be exploring physical fitness for poker players and how it can enhance your edge at the tables. Now this is going to be the first part of a video series I put together for you guys where we go deep into all the components of optimizing your physiology for peak poker performance. We're going to cover exercise, we're going to cover nutrition and fueling your body, we're going to cover sleep and recovery in order to be sharp and stay on top of your game. Today's video, we're going to do an overview of everything. All right, we're going to take a zoomed out lens and really get you guys thinking about how to optimize your physiology for poker. Then as the series goes on, we'll be going to deep into each of the components with more practical takeaways and ways for you to incorporate each of the practices. All right, so some of you might be thinking, Adam, why does it really matter? I'm a poker player. Why does it matter? My body's in good shape. Why can't I just play poker and not care about my physiology? Well, first of all, this fails to recognize the fact that the body and the brain are interconnected. They're constantly in communication with each other. The body's sending signals to the brain and the brain's sending signals back down to the body. This impacts everything from your ability to focus, your ability to think and clearly and make decisions. And we can't separate the two. We can't be like, oh, well, I just do poker, which is all mental stuff. I don't need to worry about my physiology. All right, they're constantly interacting with each other. All right, and when we neglect our body very quickly, the brain and the mind suffer. All right, so by looking after our physiology, by optimizing our physical kind of capabilities, we're going to improve our focus and our mental performance overall, better decision making, clearer decisions at the tables, able to solve problems more efficiently. I'm sure you guys can relate to this. When you're feeling sharp mentally, you can solve problems a lot easier. And as we'll talk about throughout this video, we're going to have improved ability, focus, and mental performance. You're going to have improved endurance. All right, again, so by having more energy in our physiology, we're able to sustain activity better. We'll learn more about how our body produces energy. But if you want to play 3 to 5 to 10 hour poker sessions, you need endurance. All right, you need physical and mental endurance in order to be able to play long sessions. All right, so by being in good physical shape, we can play longer. And also we have better emotional control. I'm sure everyone can relate to having a bad night's sleep, waking up the next day, maybe going to play poker, and you're just a little bit agitated. Little things throw you off. You're like, I'm just annoyed today, all right? And it's very common when we have less energy, we are more susceptible to tilt and emotional issues, all right? So when we're in good physical shape, we've looked after ourselves, we're feeling energized, we're able to control our emotions much better, all right? So we've got improved focus, we've got improved endurance, we've got improved emotional control. In all honesty, every single thing you do will be better when your physiology is optimized. So the first component we're going to discuss is exercise and movement and how that impacts our ability to play good poker. Now, the human brain has evolved to prioritize movement, and as a result, a lot of the structures and functions of the brain are dedicated to movement-related tasks. As a byproduct, movement has been shown to have a strong influence on all aspects of brain functioning. All right, when we're physically active, our brains perform better. All right, so physical activity has been shown to enhance cognitive abilities such as memory, attention, and problem solving. All right, when the many studies on these areas, when they use exercise as a tool before these activities and these tests, people perform better in memory tests, better in attention tests, and better at problem solving. Would you like to have better memory, better attention, and better problem solving as a poker player? Pretty key to your job, right? Next thing is it stimulates nootropic factors, and these can support growth and maintenance of nerves and neurons in the brain. All right, so more connections so we can solve problems better and more efficiently, and then increasing blood flow to the brain to deliver essential nutrients and oxygen. All right, there's tons and tons more benefits of movement, which we'll go into some of them as we go through different exercises, but being active is almost essential to optimal brain performance. All right, I'd say it probably is essential. It's like you can't really have a brain function optimally without moving your body, without functioning your body. All right, so today I want to talk about different forms of exercise and how we can utilize those for different benefits in terms of our physical fitness and mental capacities as a poker player. All right, so I'm going to talk about 3 different types of exercise. You can break exercise into more notes than this if you want to. But the ones I want to talk about today are cardiovascular training and fitness. I want to talk about interval training, which is more high intensity stuff. And then I want to talk about resistance training. All right, let's talk about each of them, what they look like, and how you can incorporate them into your days for optimal functioning as a poker player. So the first form of exercise we're going to discuss is cardiovascular exercise. All right, this is focused on aerobic work such as running, cycling, swimming. It's generally low to moderate intensity, and basically you're trying to optimize your heart and your lungs with this type of exercise. All right, and we'll talk about its importance, and this is going to help with mental clarity, mental endurance. And for most recommendations from the experts, they say aim for around 150 minutes per week of steady state cardio. All right, so this is kind of zone 2. You're able to have a conversation. If you're somebody who's not very active, like you're a sedentary person, going for a brisk walk will definitely count in this category. But yeah, generally it's generally going to be a little bit more active, like going for a jog, going for a run, but it's not so super intense. You could keep this going for a long period of time if you wanted to, because it's not super taxing. So we need to ask ourselves, why does this form of exercise help us as poker players? Why do we need it? All right. So as a poker player, you want to be able to make good decisions, you want mental sharpness, and you want to be alert and ready to make good decisions. Now, when it comes to producing energy in our body, in each cell of the body is something called a mitochondria. All right, mitochondria are like these things that are powerhouses of the cells that basically generate energy from the food that we intake. All right, so we're taking food as fuel, and the mitochondria then turn that into energy that we can use for physical or cognitive endeavors. Now, when we do steady state exercise, it's been shown that these mitochondria, which are powering our kind of bodies, are more efficient. They become more efficient at their job. All right, so imagine you've got 100,000 of these mitochondria, just random number, no clue how many you've got. And then when you're doing steady state exercise, this 150 minutes a week, going for steady runs, these mitochondria get more efficient at generating energy. More efficient. All right, so if you don't do any cardio, you might have the same amount of mitochondria, but they can't generate as much energy. So you're not getting 100% energy from each of those mitochondria. Now, this is very important when it comes to endurance as a poker player. If you're trying to play 3, 5, or even 10 hours of poker, you want your mitochondria to efficiently provide as much energy as possible for those endeavors. All right, so steady state cardio almost like upgrades them. It fine-tunes every one of these mitochondria to produce more energy per unit of time. All right, super important. Whether you're not bothered about physical stuff, in terms of mental capacity, this transitions straight over. All right, so more efficient mitochondria. Second thing with this kind of steady state cardiovascular training is it improves blood flow. All right, think about it. If in terms of energy to the brain to make decisions at the poker tables, how do we do that? All right, we need blood flowing to the brain. All right, we need, imagine it's going in one tube, like one big thick tube, that's like the veins and arteries, and then it spreads out in these kind of thinner channels, which are capillaries. And it's been shown by exercising more frequently, especially steady state stuff, 1, blood flow increases, but 2, the capillarization, which means this big tube going to the brain spreads out into more channels. All right, so it can actually send more nutrients and blood flow around the brain more efficiently, as well as to any of the working muscles in the body. All right, so huge in order to provide energy for our cognitive endeavors. And then it's also going to improve the efficiency of the heart and lungs. All right, so you might have noticed that fit people generally have a lower resting heart rate, which might seem counterintuitive, but when you think about it, what happens is the heart fills up with blood, and then it pumps that blood around the body. If you've got a very strong and efficient heart, that will just fill up a lot of blood and then pump it around, and that does that job very well. All right, so it can do it less frequently because each pump is getting more volume of blood around the body. If you're not very fit, the heart has to work very hard just to get the same amount of blood around the body. So it's pumping a lot of times. So that's why an unfit person, if you're overweight, for example, will generally have a higher resting heart rate because your heart's working very hard. All right, it's tiring, it's inefficient, it's wasting energy, and yeah, basically it's going to be suboptimal for providing fuel for the body. All right, so by training this kind of cardiovascular training, we can increase our heart's efficiency. We also increase our lungs capacity, our ability to take in oxygen and oxygenate the blood so that can again go to the brain to use as a fuel source. All right, so we're upgrading our kind of distribution of energy with the heart and the lungs. And then we're also releasing something called BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is almost like miracle grow for the brain. It's almost like it gets released in the brain, and then the brain can make new connections and learn more efficiently. So I could go on and on, we're going to do a whole kind of thing on exercise in a later video, but it's pretty important, right, to incorporate this. And like I said, in terms of these mitochondria in particular being more efficient, and in terms of your lungs and heart being more efficient, this kind of steady state cardio is the most important. All right, so think about it for yourself. Is there any way you can incorporate more walks if you're currently very sedentary? Could you fit in some extra jogs? Could you fit in some morning runs or any sort of sports that could tick that box? All right, so that's the first one. All right, once that one's ticked, that's almost like forming a bit of a base, a foundation for your kind of physical fitness. The next thing that's important is interval training. All right, this can be split into many different categories, but basically we're talking about moderate to high intensity work. All right, and this can be high intensity interval training, like HIIT training specifically. It can be sprinting, it can be running fast, it can be CrossFit sessions, it can be circuit sessions, anything that involves intensity, then recovery. Intensity, then recovery. Now, this is recommended to aim for around 75 minutes a week. All right, this is actually that's a lot, a high amount of recommendation to recommend. You can actually break it down into a lot lower. And I've been looking at some studies that show that people have had really effective results with as little as 4-minute interval sessions done 3 times a week. All right, so this would be you go on a bike and you go all out for 4 minutes or as high as you can. So at the end of it, you're exhausted, and you do that 3 of those sessions over the course of a week. So 12 minutes. All right, not a crazy amount to do, but basically this is going to increase the mitochondria density or the volume in simple terms of each in your cells. All right, so imagine you're trying to create energy. First of all, you want each of those mitochondria to be very efficient. So that's the steady state cardio, but you also want as many of them as possible. Now, what's very interesting, when we push our bodies intensely with physical exercise, the mitochondria realize, wait a second, this is highly stressful. That we need more energy quickly. We can't provide as much energy as we need. So the mitochondria then multiply. Right? So more mitochondria get produced to meet the energy demands the next time you're in that situation. All right, so it's like an adaptive response. Now, this is great for us as poker players because now when we sit down and play poker and we want to make decisions and we need energy, we've got more of these mitochondria available. All right, so we've got more kind of these powerhouses to provide energy for any activity. So anyone who's got a lot of energy and is able to do a lot of things throughout the day generally has a lot of mitochondria and they are working efficiently, right? Pretty simple, right? If these are things powering our cells, they're going to be driving a lot of our cognitive and physical energy. Next benefit of interval training is it's great for heart efficiency, blood flow, and lung capacity. Again, all right, so this time because the heart's going into a higher kind of heart rate, it's like pushing itself to the extremes, it's almost having to adapt to working on these higher thresholds. All right, so a lot of the work to improve your resting heart rate, though I did mention the cardio aspect, the steady state, is also pushing it hard, right? Pushing the high intensities creates this more efficient usage of blood flow and gets the heart and lungs working at full speed. All right, so imagine if you only did the kind of steady state stuff, your heart, lungs, and your blood has never worked at full capacity. You've never kind of touched those higher edges. Yeah, it's been shown by going to the high heart rate zones, which is generally called zone 4 or zone 5. You get to optimize all kind of distributions of blood flow, and your heart becomes more efficient at rest and also during other activities, right? Then we have the ability to buffer stress. This is a really interesting one where generally when we feel stressed, when we feel anxious, it's because our bodies have a lot of CO2, all right? With carbon dioxide in the body is a signal, stress, and being anxious. Now, when we exercise in high intensities, we get used to having a lot of carbon dioxide floating through our bodies that we get better at dealing with stress when we're not exercising. All right, and you'll find this, I didn't see this for a long time until I worked with probably a few hundred players, and I was like, why are the guys who are more physically active, why do those guys have less tilt issues? Why do they have less stress at the poker tables? And I didn't link the dots together until I really understood that, when you are physically active more often, you get better at buffering stress. You get better at getting used to what it feels like in your body, but also you get good at offloading some of that CO2 in order to, basically mitigate some of the stress responses. And finally, it releases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, in the brain, all right, which is a growth factor which helps us to make new connections, improve our memory, and improve our ability to link ideas and connections together. All right, so really important stuff in terms of optimizing our overall brain functioning. And some of you guys will be more prone to the more steady state stuff. Some of you guys will be more prone to the more high intensity stuff. And hopefully after this video, you can see the benefits of incorporating both, right? Doing both of those over the course of a week, right? Some steady state and some of the high intensity stuff. And the final type of training I want to talk about is resistance training. All right, so this is lifting weights. This could be calisthenic training. It could be anything moving against resistance. All right, you're pushing weights, you're moving weights around. All right, and generally the frequency for this is going to be 2 to 4 times a week for most people. If you have access to a gym, amazing. If you don't, you can use your body weight at home. You can use bands. You can use resistance of any sort to help you get some of the benefits. All right, now as well as being like great for your posture, aesthetics, your longevity in terms of having muscle mass has been shown to be one of the highest correlators towards a long life. All right, when you look at the people who live long, generally they have a decent amount of muscle mass. But those things aside, as a poker player, why should you do resistance training? All right, so one reason is because our nerves and our neurons, like kind of this electric signals going through our body, are strengthened and made faster by strength training. All right, so let's think of it in terms of I'm going to the gym to do a bicep curl. All right, in order for my bicep to contract when I put force on it, there's going to be a signal sent to the brain. All right, that's sent down the nerves and down the neurons into the muscle. Now, by doing those exercises often and doing bicep curls, that highway, that signaling to the muscle gets faster and stronger. All right, so the nerves, it's almost like fine-tuning our nervous system, this highway that's sending electric signals to our body. Now, when we want to perform cognitively, guess what happens? Say I want to think about something or make a decision, there's a highway in the body of the nervous system that's sending a signal to the brain to do something, all right? And by using resistance training, we actually improve the health and the speed and kind of efficiency of our whole nervous system, our ability to basically, send these kind of nerves signals to various parts of the body. All right, so resistance training has this unique impact on the nerves and their signaling. So it's one of the unique exercise modalities that allows us to strengthen and make that kind of signaling more efficient. It's also going to improve blood flow, and it's going to allow BDNF release similar to the other forms of exercise from these large muscles in particular. All right, if you're doing something like squats or legs or the big muscle groups, you're going to release a lot of BDNF, also testosterone from these larger muscle groups. Now, as you can see, each of these forms of exercise have different benefits, and if you were able to combine them all into your week, you would maximize the benefits of each of them. All right, now some of you will steer towards one of these types of training more than others. Myself, at the moment, I do more resistance and strength training, but I also incorporate some cardio and some interval training for these exact benefits, for these exact health promoting benefits, but also cognitively enhancing benefits. All right, so we're going to go more into this when we do a full video on optimized exercise. I'll be giving you guys example routines and things you can try out. But for now, start thinking about how you can incorporate different types of training, resistance, cardiovascular training, and interval training into your weeks. All right, so again, the kind of rough guidelines, we're trying to have 150 minutes a week of cardiovascular training. If you're doing going from 0 to 30 minutes, it's going to be a big win. If you're doing interval training, 75 minutes a week is kind of the upper end of what they recommend. But like I said, 4 minutes done 3 times a week will they suffice. So like say you do a run half a mile in 4 minutes and that's your day done for the interval. You do it 3 times a week, you get massive benefits on mitochondrial volume with that. And then resistance training, again, 2 to 4 times a week would be ideal. All right, so hopefully you can see the benefits of all of those modalities. Now, next I want to talk about is nutrition. Nutrition gets very complicated for some people, and also there's a lot of disputes on what's the optimal nutrition based on all the different diet camps there are, whether it's vegan, whether it's carnivore, whether it's keto. Lots of polarization in nutrition. All right, for me, nutrition is very simple, and the concepts that you need to know are very easy to apply. And the reason is, I think of nutrition as fuel for the body. All right, fuel and building blocks. All right, so if we think about it, we eat food to act as fuel in terms of fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, and also to build neurons, build muscles, build connections, building cells in our body, so to speak. All right, so first of all, let's talk about the building side. All right, how do we build cells? How do we build muscle? How do we build anything in the body? Now, if you think about the body and you understand how it works, there's constantly things getting broken down and remade. Broken down and remade. All right, this happens through protein synthesis, and in order for our body to build, let's new connections in the brain, whether it's new muscles after you've done a workout, we need protein. All right, we need protein as the building blocks. All right, so when I think about diet, regardless of which camp you go into, I think a lot of the experts in nutrition, especially around performance, agree on this, that protein should be the starting point. All right, and hitting your protein needs so you can build the structures in your body effectively should be where you begin. All right, so the rough recommendations for hitting your protein are 1.5 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. All right, so for simple terms, let's say if you weigh 100 kilograms, you would aim for 150 to 200 grams of protein a day. All right, so that'd be the starting point. You try and hit that target to begin with. You then start to think about your fuel sources from fats and carbohydrates. All right, again, this gets overcomplicated for a lot of people, but for me, it's very simple in terms of carbohydrates are generally going to be more immediate fuel sources. All right, so carbohydrates are preferred when we're doing intense work. When we're doing short duration work, carbohydrates are the main fuel source for the brain and for the body. And then when we're doing longer stuff, whether it's steady state or it's in a lower intensity or for long durations, our body prefers to use fat. All right, so fat's efficient for long duration, whereas carbs are efficient for intensity and short duration. All right, so when you know that, you can start to think, okay, well, how do my days look? When do I need some fast burst of energy? Maybe you're going to do a workout and you're going to be working intensely. Awesome. Carbohydrates as a fuel source will be very good for those activities. But let's say you're going to play poker and you're going to be playing for 5 hours with a few breaks in between. How do you fuel your body for that activity? All right. Well, we can see that, first of all, proteins are always a good thing to have at every meal for that kind of building blocks. So having, like, say, 30 grams of protein per meal is a good target. But then we generally want to use fats as a fuel source, right, in terms of efficiency. So if we use fats as a fuel source, they're generally very efficient, they're very no spikes in terms of energy levels, and they're long. They last for a long time without big ups and downs. All right, so for most poker players, fats and proteins around the grind will be most efficient. Then carbohydrates are going to have more of a spike. They're short out energy, so basically when we have carbohydrates, our body prefers those as a fuel source. So we'll grab all those kind of the glucose in the blood, and we'll use that as an energy source quite quickly. All right, so as a result, we have high energy and then a bit of a crash. So if you're doing a 30-minute session or a 1-hour session, carbohydrates could be a good fuel source because it's like it helps in that range of time. All right, but generally when we have carbohydrates, we want to have what's called complex carbohydrates. All right, so this is basically from whole foods. It's from fruits, it's from grains, it's from real food. Now, the reason for this is generally whole foods and complex carbs have a lot more fiber, and fiber basically slows down absorption. So rather than things spiking really high, they spike a lot less, and it levels out. So it makes it a bit more similar to the profile of how fat works in the body. When we have simple carbohydrates, which is sugars, processed foods in general, anything that has a lot of these, what they call simple carbs, because they're very easy to break down, they create big spikes and big crashes. So I say when you're grinding in particular or around any cognitive performance, you don't want these big spikes and big crashes. So you want to avoid fueling your body with simple carbohydrates, in particular around your grind. All right, after a workout, fine, because these are going to go into the body as a fuel source. Before a workout, fine, because again, they're going to go into the body and use as a fuel source immediately. But I think once you understand it, that's all I need to think about. Obviously, then we've got it looking at calories, which again, we're going to do a whole video on nutrition where we'll talk more about the kind of recommendations for each of these kind of macronutrients, and we'll go into micronutrients as well. But for now, that's all I need to think about. What fuel sources am I using for each activity? I want to use fats and proteins for my longer steady state stuff, and I can use carbohydrates as a fuel source for my more intense short duration stuff. So lastly, let's talk about sleep and recovery. Now, if you want to perform at a high level consistently, you can't be all go, go, go. All right, you can for a period of time, but you will burn out. You will crash at some stage. All right, and one of the key ingredients or the key parts of the equation to high performance over long periods of time is recovery. And most of recovery is going to happen through sleep. All right, and you've really got to understand how much sleep your body needs for the activities you're doing. All right, if you're playing long hours of poker, if you're working hard in the gym, if you're doing a lot of things, you need to balance that with equal recovery. All right, so sleep, obviously we talk about durations between generally 7 to 9 hours. Most people aiming for 8+ of sleep, but also quality of sleep is so important. And for myself, I've been tracking my sleep with a Whoop tracker, which you wear on your wrist, for the past 4 years. And the amount of data I've gained around sleep and how my daily lifestyle impacts it, all the things I'm doing physically impact my sleep, how stress impacts sleep, the amount of data I've gained and knowledge has been amazing, all right? And without that, I would almost certainly have nowhere near as many tools to improve my sleep quality, all right? So first of all, I have the duration of sleep, so aim for 8 hours, but then we need to get good quality sleep, all right, and good hygiene practices, all right? We'll go into a full episode on how to optimize sleep, but some of the main things we need to be aware of is how much light throughout the day impacts our ability to get good quality sleep. All right, so with sleep, basically what our bodies are trying to guess is when is daytime, so I can be alert, produce cortisol, adrenaline, and be ready, and when is nighttime, so I can replenish. Now, some of the problems we have, especially as poker players, is that you're at your computer, getting signals, light signals from your environments, and your body's confused. Is this daytime? Is this nighttime? All right, so as a result, it can't produce enough melatonin, which is generally linked to falling asleep and getting good quality sleep. So as a result, we don't get good quality sleep because we're on devices too late at night. All right, so one of the things we need to do is try to avoid light exposure in the last 30 to 60 minutes of our days. All right, that's one of the key practices to good quality sleep. Another one, which is on the opposite side, is getting morning light exposure. If any of you guys listen to the Hoopman Lab podcast, which I highly recommend you do, one of the big takeaways that he mentions almost every episode is daily light exposure early in your day to set your circadian rhythm, let your body know now is daytime, so I can be alert and ready. And also in the evening, this also creates something like a clock that's ticking. So when it comes to nighttime or the evening time for yourself, or whenever that is, you're able to switch off and fall asleep. All right. Again, we'll go more into creating the right kind of structure and habits around sleep to optimize it. I'm huge on tracking sleep. I'll talk about how I track sleep and how it's effective. But understanding, are you getting enough sleep for what you need, and are you getting good quality sleep? All right. And I do feel like in this current age, everyone should be tracking their sleep. You should be tracking your sleep. You should know your recovery scores. And you should be optimizing it in order to get the best quality sleep for yourself to perform at the level that you want. All right, so I hope this has whet your appetite for the future videos. Let me know in the comments which one you're most looking forward to next. I'm going to do a full video on exercise. I'll be doing a full video on nutrition and a full one on sleep. I'll be talking about best practices, how to use it in your days, how to structure it over the course of your days and weeks. I'll also be doing an example of my routines and how I incorporate these things into my life. And then I'll be helping you guys to design your own kind of optimal approach to optimizing your physiology. Alright guys, so hopefully you guys are excited about this. If you are, hit that like button, drop a comment below to tell me what you're looking forward to, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.